Hey guys, Dave. I haven't done a top 10 list in quite a while, so I thought I'd do another one here. Um, I watched the Confused Breakfast Club podcast. It's a bunch of guys from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and they talk about films and whatnot. And they just got done reviewing Weird Science, one of John Hughes's films. And I thought, well, I rewatched it. And I gotta think about my John Hughes films, so I thought I'd do another top 10 list on my favorite John Hughes films. So, I mean, John Hughes, very prolific throughout the 80s and the 90s, writer director for films. You know, a lot of humor, captured kind of adolescence, American adolescence, really, like no other filmmaker. You know, where there was an awkwardness of high school, you know, the chaos of family, vacations, you know, the magic of skipping school, that perfect day. So he had a real knack for turning kind of everyday moments into really amazing films. He was writer director. Like I said, he had a string of films throughout the 80s, early 90s. So I'm going to count down my top 10 favorite John Hughes films. With a few honorable mentions. None of my films come from the 90s. And he had big hits. You know, he had Home Alone, and that was probably his biggest hit in the 90s. But those are, you know, great films. I'm not knocking them, but they were not my top 10. I'm a child of the 80s, and most of my films were based in the 80s. So a few honorable mentions. 1987's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He was a writer and director. I had Steve Martin and John Candy. Kind of a businessman. He and a quirky salesman kind of endured a kind of a chaotic journey home for the holidays. I think it was Thanksgiving. You know, they missed flights, they burned cars, and a lot of misadventure. You know, led to a really nice ending. I read someplace that the film was originally like 3 hours long, and he had to cut it down to 93 minutes. I would love a full version of that 3 hours, but it's never been released. The other honorable mention would be She's Having a Baby. That was 1988. I had Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth McGovern, and they were a young couple, kind of, you know, navigating all their marriage, career choices, and then parenthood coming. And I just remember, you know, they were a young couple in this neighborhood just trying to figure out, you know, how do you work in suburbia in the 80s. This one film had quite a bit of emotional depth too, I thought, more than a lot of the others. So yeah, the ending credits though had a feature celebrities listing baby names, including Dan Aykroyd. He had suggested like Thalanos or something like that. I forget how it was, but kind of a neat little thing about that one. All right, so my top 10. And these are, I want to say there's not a, you know, Confused Breakfast Club, they do a current rating, and they also do a nostalgic rating. I just can't get past nostalgia. I guess I'm a little biased that way, but most of these have a nostalgia rating. And I could watch all these films today if I needed to. I'd have no problem picking it up and putting it in and watching the whole thing. So number 10 was 1989's Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Had Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Randy Quaid. You know, this is more vacation type movies, but Clark, Chevy Chase are just trying to create the perfect family Christmas. But you know, with everything National Lampoon's, it just goes wrong. You know, from the tree catching fire, the cat dying, you know, the kidnapping the boss, and this is peak Randy Quaid too for me. This was where he was at his best, when he was as cousin. You know, I think this is his best performance as the cousin. Number 9, Pretty in Pink. That was 1986. That had Molly Ringwald, John Cryer, and Andrew McCarthy. So Andy, Molly Ringwald, she's kind of coming from a working class family. She follows the rich kid who is Andrew McCarthy, and she has her best friend John Cryer, who is Ducky, and Ducky's in love with her. You know, talks a lot about social pressures and with the relationships, and you know, Andy, she ends up making her own dress, and you know, goes to the dance with Andrew McCarthy character. Number 8, another vacation movie. This was 1983's Vacation. This is the kind of one that started it all for that series. Again, Chevy Chase, Michael Delangelo, Anthony Michael Hall. You're going to see a lot of the same actresses and actors for John Hughes Films. So Clark's taking him on the big road trip in the family truckster, whatever it was called, to Wally World, and he just had all that misadventure again along the way. I mean, you had Anthony Michael Hall's character, Rusty, having his first beer with Dad, slamming it out there on the when they're stuck out there. That's kind of my favorite scenes. Number 7 was A Great Outdoors. That was John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. Just Family Vacation gets all chaotic when Dan Aykroyd and his family ride the in-laws. The bear attack and the giant steak eating contest. Just a great film. Good fun. Number 6 is 1984, 16 Candles. Molly Ringwald, Anthony Michael Hall again. Molly Ringwald's character, her birthday gets forgotten. Her 16th birthday, I think it was, because all the family shows up for her sister's wedding, and I forget the foreign exchange student Donger. I forget the actor's name. Sorry, but he made the whole show because the Donger needs food. No more Yankee, his wanky, or whatever it was. Just a good movie. Uncle Buck, 1989. He wrote and directed that one. That John Candy and Macaulay Culkin. And Uncle Buck, he had to show up to watch his nieces and nephews as their parents got called away for I think it was a sickness in the family. So he's coming from the city out to the suburbs, and he never had kids and doesn't really know how to deal with kids. And I think this is peak John Candy right here. I mean, some of the way Macaulay Culkin's drilling John Candy about what he does and why he lives in the city, why he didn't have a job, etc. Just a good performance from John Candy overall on this one. Okay, number 4, 1985's European Vacation. Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, the Griswolds family. They win a trip to Europe, and like all vacation movies, just chaotic. Chaos consumes the entire trip. I like this film. I remember Rusty at the beer hall in Germany, getting to make out with the beer maid. I was 10 years old. I love that scene. I actually have the original poster of this one too. This was probably, like I said, this is my favorite vacation movie. I like the Europe scenes, and I like that sort of humor. All right, top 3. I mentioned Weird Science earlier with the Confused Breakfast podcast. This is my number 3. Anthony Michael Hall, Kelly LeBrock. I forget the other actor's name. I'm sorry. I had not Bill Pullman. I had his name escapes me. Bill Paxton. There's Chet, the brother. So you had the 2 nerdy teens. They use the computer to create the perfect woman. Lisa, who was played by Kelly LeBrock, and then she basically is there to help help the boys gain confidence, and then it just, again, like classic John Hughes, just wreaks havoc with her powers and puts the boys in all these scenarios. And in the end, the boys stand up to the bullies or the biker gang, and they get the girls in the end, and just a fun movie, very peak 80s, all 80s, all the time. I mean, I think this is his most 80s movie. I think I read someplace that Hughes wrote the script back in like 36 hours, and he wrote and directed it. I'm not sure if he was really into this movie, because I think he was working on The Breakfast Club at the same time. Maybe he was doing the editing on The Breakfast Club, so he really wasn't, I don't think, was super into this movie, but it truly is a great movie. Number 2, The Breakfast Club. He was writer and director. That was 1985 as well. This is a Brat Pack. Emilio Estevez, Molly Ringwald, Judd Nussel, Anthony Michael Hall, Ali Sheedy. Emilio Estevez. I always say that one. Monster cast. So you had the 5 students spending the Saturday in detention, and kind of talking about why they're in detention, confessions. They're breaking down the social groups of high school, the nerds, the geeks, the jocks, the burnouts, or whatever they call it, dweebos, whatever it was. They break down all those stereotypes and become friends until they're in school the next day. And they won't be friends, but great movie. And number 1, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986. Matthew Broderick, Alan Ruck, Mia Sarah. Sarah. Ferris, we all know he skipped school, playing sick, has a great day out in Chicago with his best friend and his girlfriend, and obviously dodging Principal Rooney throughout the whole day, and then I had Charlie Sheen in it too. But it's kind of every high school kid's dream is just to take off a day from school and just have the time of your life. So that was my number one movie of all time. So yeah, there you go. My top 10. Top 10 John Hughes Films: National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Pretty in Pink, National Lampoon's Vacation, The Great Outdoors, 16 Candles, Uncle Buck, European Vacation. Then number 3 is Weird Science, number 2 Breakfast Club, and number 1 Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So there it is, top 10 list. Haven't done one of those in a while. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. See ya.